And we've got to get really clear on our outcome. Clarity is power. I said that before, and I'll say it again. Clarity is power. The clearer we are on something, I worked with a man this morning, life coaching call, and we talked about that. We talked about getting clarity as to what he wants in his relationship. And we worked out that the first thing he needs of it is a job. And so he's now focused on getting that job. And so he said, let's get really clear. I said, what's the biggest stressor in your life? He says, no finances, no money. Okay, so we're going to resolve that. I said, what's the second biggest stressor? He says, my son. I said, okay, what's the third biggest stress? My marriage, my relationship. We're not communicating well. I said, okay, so now we've got the order of sequence. Let's start working on these things. So let's go to number one. Let's deal with that. Okay, what have you done so far to get a job? What can you do? How can we change that? How can we change either your state, your strategy, or your story around getting a job so that you get the job that you want? Well, we worked out that he was only applying for certain types of job. Here he is in a situation where he hasn't had work for 6 months. As a result, the financial strain on the family is causing disruption, disharmony in their marriage, as it would. Okay, I said, holding out for that perfect job isn't going to alleviate the stress of your relationship. What you need is a job. And so we discussed this morning. Okay, and it wasn't me telling him. I was asking questions to bring him to this realization, because I can tell you what to do, but has a far greater impact if you work it out, if you work out what to do. And all I do then is ask the questions that will lead you towards those results. Okay, so there's a bit of pacing and leading involved, but sometimes I do tell him, and this guy, sometimes I've got to tell him, because he's a bit stubborn. Okay, but he needed that job, but he came to me with the right answers. Okay, he needed a job, and I said, is it going to help you to hold out for that perfect job if your marriage is dissolved? I said, what's the point? What do you want more? Do you want the perfect job, or do you want your marriage to work? And he said, I want my marriage to work. I said, well, what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to start applying for other jobs. I said, thank goodness. All right? So the first thing you want is know your outcome. So his outcome is, the first one is, reduce stress, get a job, get some income. Okay, that's going to deal with, I'm a provider. Okay, what's the bar for a man? Lover, leader, provider. One of the things that we need to do is provide. Okay, so outcome is number one. What's the second one? The second one is purpose. You've got to know your why you want it. Get a big enough reason why. In fact, there's a couple of questions that I've had this week, or a couple of things that I've wanted to do, and I wanted to make sure that I had a big enough why. And so when I do this process for myself, I'll write out what I wanted. So, for example, with Leonie, is I want to exercise regularly. Is that right? I want to exercise regularly. Yep. Okay, now what I'm going to do is say, how can I get myself to exercise regularly? That might be my question. How can I get myself to exercise regularly? And regularly might be 3-4 times a week. How do I get myself to exercise regularly? And then I do this on a blank piece of paper, and I write 1 to 100. And then I come up with 100 reasons. 100. Now you can have one big reason, one big compelling reason, or you can have enough little reasons that equal one big reason. So I go for 100. My goal is 100 reasons. If you can find a big enough purpose, you can do anything, if you've got a big enough purpose. So what you've got to do is get that purpose. And what we're using is pain and pleasure with our purpose. If I exercise regularly, I'm going to be healthy. If I exercise regularly, I'm going to be fit. I'm going to be strong. If I exercise regularly, I'm going to have the energy to get done all that I need to do. If I exercise regularly, I won't have another heart attack. If I exercise regularly, I won't die in the next 5 years. If I exercise regularly, I won't. And you can use positive and negative. You can use pleasure and pain. And we should. You should look at 50 pleasure, 50 pain. Okay, pain ones you want to get out of. I want to avoid this at all costs. Or I want to get this at all costs. Pain and pleasure, we're using those in our purpose. So that's our purpose. And what's the A? A is the next step. Once we've done that, once we've written out our reasons, once we've got them secure in our mind and heart, and the other thing that we can do, and I like to do as well, is meditate on it as well. See if we can't get that into the unconscious mind. Okay, you've written out all the reasons, now go through it and take those reasons and meditate on them. Really think about them. Get pictures in your mind of you, I don't know, having a stroke or having a heart attack. Get pictures of you falling over. Get pictures of you in the worst possible scenarios. Then get pictures of you succeeding and running and doing a half marathon. And get pictures of you, doing that thing that you want to do. Living a long time. Seeing your grandchildren as adults. And being able to be active with them. So you see all that in your mind, and what you're doing now is you're creating pain and pleasure in the unconscious mind. You're using your words and your language, you're also using your imagination, which has a compelling effect upon your future. And once you've done all that, you take action. What sort of action? Massive action. Outcome, purpose, action. And it's as simple as that. Then when you take action, you don't play games. You don't muck around. You just do it. You don't feel like doing it, do it anyway. Once you start, you'll start feeling like it. Yeah, both strategies work. Yeah. With ourselves, we can use both. Yeah. We can go positive, we can go negative. Now, if you're more a positive motivation strategist, come with 90 positive reasons and 10 negative. Yes. Because it's still good to look at the negative. What we don't want to do is be in denial of the negative. Because we want to tell people this alarm system, we're selling them because there's thieves out there. Yes. Because there are people who will take what you've earned hard, you've gone and sacrificed and you've done all that hard work to get this stuff, and now your insurance premiums are going up every year because there's people out there who don't respect that. They don't respect you, they don't respect your property.
That's right.
Now at the same time, we want you to feel peace of mind. We want you to feel comfortable in your own home. We want you to feel what it feels like to breathe the fresh air and to just enjoy peace. Okay, so we use both. And the power of using both is, what I heard from this is what, and I haven't done studies personally about this, but one it was at a money seminar. He actually said that we'll do more to avoid pain than we will to gain pleasure. We'll do more to avoid pain than we will to gain pleasure. So would you do more to avoid the pain of a broken leg or to gain the pleasure of being in a relationship you want? What would you do more? And he says we do more to avoid the pain. So people look at that and it's a very powerful thing. Avoid pain and move towards pleasure. So Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile. He said that on the 4th lap, on the last leg of the journey, he actually saw in his mind, he saw planes flying overhead shooting missiles at him. So he actually saw, so that was a negative motivation strategy. And he was able to then push himself to run and then break that record. Okay, which high school students break today. Yeah, so that's a negative motivation. So I've tried all sorts of negative motivation strategy. One of them that I see is I see a pack of wolves chasing me as I'm doing sprints. Yes. And I imagine them, or a bear. I've even seen a bear chasing me. And I'm running up this hill.
I understand the way it can motivate you.
I've also seen a man with a gun, and he's holding the gun at me, and I'm running to try and get away from him. I'm thinking maybe I should zigzag, but I'm a harder target when you're going darting back and forth. But I use these negative motivation strategies. The other thing that I use is very positive ones. So if I get to the top, I get to hug that person that I love. I get to engage with them. Or Rocky, or you win the grand final, or you win something, or your seminar's a smashing success, or whatever the case is. So all these things occur in our mind, and we can motivate ourselves to push ourselves harder using these strategies, using negative or positive motivation strategies. Now, different people are different. You may be more of a positive motivation strategist. I'm more of a negative, but I use both. I think if we can train ourselves to use both, we will get better success in life. We will get more out of life, because pain certainly does motivate.